Look away, Joe. Look away.
Oh wow, this is cruel, Joe. Joe, let me apologize for my partner here.
No, hey, it wasn't me.
I told Zimmer I wanted to play the infield back, and I respected his age and experience, and you know he got me in trouble. What can I tell you?
It is our great privilege to have baseball's chief baseball officer here, Joe Torre, in the booth with us. Are you two joined at the hip in one sense now, forever?
I don't think there's any question. I mean, the fact that first of all, you get to a World Series. I know the Yankees have done it a lot and all that stuff. That's something you never take for granted. It's always something very special. It didn't happen to me until I've been in the game. You know, I'm 56 years old, and I started in professionally at 19. You know, and then Bobby, I mean, there's never going to be another, you know, first-time World Series in Phoenix, and so it's something they can't take away from.
Yeah, that was very special. And part of the reason it was so special is Goldie goes down looking at a called strike 3. It was the fact we were playing the Yankees, Joe. I mean, you know, the most iconic franchise in all of baseball, and you guys have just been dominating the landscape for years. And the fact that our first championship here in Arizona came against the Yankees made it extra special.
And I can understand that, but it was so special being here. Game 2, I'll never forget, and of course, this animal over here. You know, I could have done with him coming out of the bullpen. The problem is, you see his head over the fence already. You know who it's going to be.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but Game 2, when Ray Charles singing "America the Beautiful," my goodness, it was unbelievable. It was quite an emotion here.
Do they come back when you're in this ballpark? Have you been here, back here many times since then?
I managed the Dodgers, so
you know
we came in here often, but it's and again, I can't say it's a bad memory, because even though we lost the World Series, it was probably the most exciting one that I was a part of.
Really?
I think the drama in New York, those 3 games. And you know, Bobby, the one thing about Bob Brenly, I mean a lot of things about Bob Brenly, but the fact of the matter is he never lost his focus and cool, you know, in spite of the emotion of losing those games in New York. I mean, we came back here and they kicked our butts in Game 6. So I mean, that's a credit to the manager, where you basically keep them on point. And you know, and of course, Game 7 was an epic drama.
You know, the whole series was just epic under the circumstances, what was going on in the world at the time. Jake Lamb slaps one into left field for a base hit. Yeah, I'm a little biased, but it worked out the way it had to. You know, New York needed those 3 games in that series, and the way they ended, it just gave everybody something to take a deep breath and step away from their problems and really enjoy the game of baseball.
There is no question, and of course, I mean, we both had a memorable moment with President Bush throwing out the first pitch in Game 3. I mean, that and as Bob pointed out, the emotion of 9/11, the tenseness of the World Series, and of course what was going on in the world. It was just so unusual and something you can never duplicate. Not that we ever want to.
How did each of you deal with that circumstance? Because no one has ever had to deal with that in your position. Hopefully no one ever will again. What did that mean for you as a manager and managing your players in that situation?
And the 9/11 you're talking about, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know, we were in New York at the time it happened, and we visited like Ground Zero, and well, not Ground Zero, because that was a little too soon. We went to the Armory, we went to St. Vincent's Hospital, and we wind up going to the Javits Center, where there was a staging area, but the Armory was it, because that's where all the families were waiting for results from the DNA. Wow. And I didn't know if we should even go in there. Yeah. So I had a number of players and a number of staff that was still left in New York that we went. And I remember sending somebody in to check and see if it would be okay. And then we went in there, and families would call us over. And I remember Bernie Williams, such a poignant moment. Bernie Williams went over to this one woman. He said, "I don't know what to say." He says, "But you look like you need a hug." And from there, all of a sudden, different families come over, because they were separated by partitions, low partitions. Each family had their spot, and they were showing pictures of their loved ones in Yankee garb.
Wow.
And I realized at that point we had a job to do, and it was basically, as Bob pointed out, to distract the people from what reality was going on around them.
So you were dealing with it obviously on a very close and personal level. Bob, suddenly you're in the middle of that national stage with your team from Arizona. How was it for you?
Well, we made it optional. We made a trip to Ground Zero. Enough time had elapsed, and they were still digging through the rubble looking for survivors or looking for bodies at that point. And we were asked if we wanted to go out there as a group, and you know, we didn't make it mandatory because some of the guys just said they didn't think they could handle it. They didn't want to be a part of it, and they didn't want to go there and be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. But the guys who did go, I think, have been changed forever. You know, you mentioned Randy's head peeking over the bullpen fence. Well, you can imagine Randy Johnson walking down there in Ground Zero, and the rescue workers and the families that were there came running over, taking pictures, handing him cell phones. This is my son. Can you say hi to him, please? And it was just a moment, the likes of which I'll never experience and hope I never have to experience again. But those rescue workers were so grateful just that the players took the time to come out there and see what they were going through.
Well, Didi Gregorius had the baseball but couldn't find the bag, and second base umpire Jim Reynolds says safe as Lamb is in there. Castro made a nice play behind the base, but Didi apparently couldn't find his footing.
We've talked about this lately, partner. This is one of those things with the exaggerated pull shifts that teams might have to work on a little more in spring training, approaching that bag at second from an awkward position.
Well, since we have you here, Joe, as
no, it wasn't a violation.
Well, how is the review process working in your estimation right now? Where are we with it?
The review process is, working. I mean, I think for replay, it's it's what people were crying for, and because you had the technology to be able to do it in a short enough time. We're at like a minute and 45 seconds, but from challenge to the end, it's a lot longer than that. But see where Joe Girardi's not going to challenge because it wasn't definitive, which means you're not going to overturn that call. But it is working, Bob. It's really weird. We've had so many more challenges so far this year than in the past. And here I thought, because of the slide rule, and that would take a challenge, that they may save it. But it hasn't been the case. They see something that they want to challenge and they go out right now, because you know as well as I do, there's no insignificant time for something to happen on the field.
Chris Herman. Anything you'd like to change with it that is in discussion right now?
Steve, we look at it at the end of the year and we say, we could probably tweak this or tweak that, and we'll do that. Again, I don't think there's anything glaring. I think it's a contradiction of what we're doing with the pace of game.
True.
And so I think we have to try to accommodate, but make sure that we make it fair as far as giving a chance, giving the review people in New York a chance to make the call right. So it's something that we'll look at, but again, we take everything in, and we have stats, and we look at it and we see what would make sense to add or subtract or whatever.
Everybody, I'm sure, has input or suggestions. I know Bob has a few. He'd
and
probably
we'll
like to
take
pass
them.
along.
Let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
I tell managers this. You guys have any ideas, call me. Do me a favor. Don't go to the media and complain about it and tell me how you're going to fix it. Just call me, because we take everything in consideration. We try to accommodate, because we're here to serve the game. We're not here to dictate the game. We're here to serve the game, and managers are obviously a huge part of it.
We're going to lose you at this half inning, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about one of the reasons you're here, Joe Garagiola. What did he mean to you and to baseball?
Well, you were Joe's friend for life when you met him. You just felt like you were important because that's the way he made you feel. He cared about you, and it's interesting. Both guys lived across the street from each other, he and Yogi Berra, and they were the same. They made you feel important when they talked to you. And Joe and I worked in the booth for a limited period of time in California for the Angels, and it was a special time in my life.
Joe Torre, sir, thank you so much for coming by. We appreciate it.
Steve, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Always good to see you, Scott.
Thank you.